Alright, we got one package this week. I feel there's the opening. And here we have everything. Let's just start going. We begin with finding out if there's a sexy guy underneath this. He's kind of, yes. Do I know him? I'll have to rewatch the series to find out. But we got ReZero, Starting Life in Another World. This should be part 2. Did it say part 2? Season 1, part 2. So if there's more than one season, then there'll be more. Ooh, different thing underneath the thing. Ooh, and different backs. That's not as common. Take a look here. Region A only. English dub. Extras. Repetit. Restarting Life in Another World from Petite. Texas opening, closing songs. Trailers. Suffers to live and die. Restart. Okay, they even have different taglines. Interesting. Let's double check here to make sure. Yes. Okay. In any case, this means I can now open this up. And this might be the high priority watch arriving this week. I'm not exactly sure that I'm gonna like it, because my brother didn't like part 2. But he did like part 1. But mostly I'm thinking his opinion is notable for me because we do tend to have similar tastes, I think. I guess we're going to have to find out. That plastic was kind of messy trying to come off. Interesting that... Oh, look, there's a happy man. He's so happy. It's there on disc 2, Blu-ray disc 2, and then there's DVD disc 1 and DVD disc 2. Interesting. I wonder... It's just kind of strange for the same artwork to be on both, but for DVD 2 to be... or disc 2 to have more ink like that, I guess? More inking, darker printing. I don't know. Should be fine. Next up we have Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt Bandit Flower on Blu-ray, which I think... I actually just didn't think too much about whether or not I was going to get this, because while I did import the Japanese version, I didn't want to look up what I have. So here's a US Blu-ray release. If what I have is the Japanese Blu-ray release, then I also have a little bit of blue plastic that fell off right there. Let's just get that on the table over there where I'll find it again. It's yam with yam. I yam around and take all this and wrap it up like this. On the bright side, my head doesn't hurt. I guess that means ibuprofen's kicking in. Region A. Audio has English and Japanese, which I think the Japanese releases also had. I think that small text right there is special features, promos, TV commercials, and trailers. Taking a peek at the inside. Bandit Flower. You know, it's kind of hard to see that artwork through the recycle sign. Actually, it's kind of hard to see it there, but maybe I'll get a better glimpse of it through the camera. Next up we have Lou Over the Wall, which is a very interesting looking thing. Oh, that's a sticker. Let's see if there's any sexy wave splashes underneath that one. Just the tip of one, if you're into the tip. Masaki's. Jesus, that one's flying far. Okay, well this is a G-Kids release. I guess they've been releasing more of his stuff, haven't they? Bonus features, audio commentary with filmmakers, interview with director Masaki Yusa, trailers, TV spots, Blu-ray. I see an A there. I'm not seeing anything that says dub or sub. So why don't we just take a guess that this is subtitled only unless we find out otherwise. Some really interesting looking stuff here. So the inside isn't really much different. That's okay. I think that's expected. This is an interesting curiosity. DVD, Blu-ray. That's a goofy smile. An interesting little backdrop on the inside. This is the Blu-ray plus DVD version of Lou Over the Wall. Or maybe that's La Over the Wall. Probably Lou. Oh, nice. I wasn't quite sure what this was from a distance because it just looked kind of generic Magical Girl, but that's Cardcaptor Sakura, a clear card. And we don't have to check under that since we will get the checking under of it for free by opening this up. Who released this? Funimation. This one a Blu-ray only release. I'm not seeing a DVD version there, so maybe so. Well, looking on the back, we've got regions A and B. Audio, we've got English dub and Japanese with English subtitles. Although I suspect I will probably watch this one with subtitles. Oh, I didn't look for extras. It's Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card Prologue, Sakura and the Two Bears, textless opening song, textless closing song, trailers. Cool. We got Blu-ray 1 with episodes 1 through 7 and the Clear Card Prologue Extra. While over here we have episodes 8 through 11 and the regular stuff. We got Sakura, we got Kero-chan. Next up we have Maquia, When the Promised Flower Blooms. Let's see if there's a sexy knee underneath this sticker. Maybe. Simply phenomenal, gorgeous animation. Okay, I mean it looks pretty. That's for sure. This isn't so this is another Shop Factory release. Interesting. So on the back here I see it says Blu-ray DVD Region A, which generally means featurette and trailers. I'm not seeing anything saying that it's got the dub or not. So we can kind of guess this one is Japanese with English subtitles unless we find otherwise. I'll try to remember just watching these answers questions that maybe was there from last week and I didn't think to answer them. DVD version? Blu-ray version? Happy Girl in the Water version. And last but not least, we have Ideon, Space Runaway. Space Runaway Ideon, complete series plus movies. All in one heavy-ass Blu-ray. If you've never seen an ass Blu-ray, this is the closest you'll get. Made in Japan, okay. Obviously, all made on a Krypton as well, because this is some damn tough plastic. So, we're going to have to grab the old trusty tear the shit out of it thing out. And tear the shit out of it. Create an opening. That will then be the weakness of the plastic wrapping. Okay, now that the back has lost a layer of plastic, I see a region A. I see 30 episodes plus 2 movies on 6 discs. Sorry, that's 39 episodes. Japanese with English subtitles. There's that. I'm not seeing extras, but maybe there's not a whole lot in the way of extras. Well, that's an interesting eyebrow raise. Hold on, that afro looks familiar for some reason. Oh well. Taking a look, I turn that one upside down. 5 and 6. Interesting. Well, that's this week's anime DVD collection update. First up, I did watch a couple more episodes of Citrus. Okay, more like I finished the first episode and then watched a couple episodes on top of that. And it's been okay. I kind of remember last time talking about how there were characters I kind of didn't like, and there's still kind of characters I don't like, and it's doing weird things, and it feels a little convenient with its solving of some problems, but leaving some core drama in place. But I don't know. My analysis is just going to be kind of fragmented due to the state of my mind right now. But putting all that aside, it seemed okay. I'm not sure if it would be something I would definitely enjoy continuing to watch, but I could see how it would be easy to continue. I guess the real problem is fragmented attention and trying to watch other stuff as well. For example, I did watch a couple episodes of Girls Last Tour. In theory, I could watch more because I'm kind of watched the 2 episodes on my TV in my bedroom before going to bed. But the problem is, I guess I keep pushing my bedtime such that I'm just really exhausted and just go straight to bed and don't watch anything before I go to bed. And of the 2 episodes I've watched, it's okay so far. If there's anything I would say is a problem with it at this point, it's that it doesn't feel like I have a sense of, okay, I definitely want to keep watching it for this. It's introduced some very quiet moments that are very interesting. It kind of opens up in a very, oh, this is kind of freaky sort of environment. But a lot of that could have also been my own imagination playing on things. And maybe that was the point, or maybe my mind jumped the gun, and sometimes it's fun when the mind does that. The characters interacting with each other seems okay. There's some interesting things about it that happens, I guess, for lack of better terms. I don't have a good feeling for the world, but at the same time, it kind of reminds me a bit of, I can't remember the name of it. I mean, I remember the anime itself, and I remember enough to spoil it very badly, but it's one of those... Yeah, why can't I remember it? Anyways, it would be interesting to see where this one goes. I'm kind of curious still, and of course I haven't given it the obligatory 3 episodes that you're supposed to give lots of stuff if you want to give them a fair shake. Any anime that takes longer than 3 episodes to get you into it, excuse me, is whatever. Anyways, I want to see more. I've not seen that person. Don't even quite understand the scenario they're in. So I want to see more. And last but not least, I've been watching The Ancient Magus's Bride. And so far, it's been kind of neat. It's, I guess, not as moving or something as I would have thought, but at the same time, I think some of that is ordering of events being a little weird or something. It seems kind of heartwarming, but not exactly slice of life-ish. So it's not quite like Flying Witch, which this kind of reminds me of that in terms of the character being exposed to magical stuff, but it's not quite, oh, they're just sitting there watching it. They're part of it, much more so than Flying Witch would have had, I'd say. Like, this is a pretty common thing with anime with supernatural elements in it, where sometimes you have a main character who's introduced to the world and the things are just kind of flowing around them and they're just gawking in awe. And it doesn't quite feel like, okay, yeah, I feel like they're in this universe, because maybe it doesn't feel like there's this back and forth interaction with the elements that there could be. Maybe that's a weakness of Flying Witch in a way, where it's like, witches are their own thing, and even though this girl, the little girl, wants to become one, or the guy's completely familiar with them, it seems like it's just its own world with its own rules that, oh, surprise, it just happens to be hiding around the corner. And you only can look at it from a distance. Ancient Magus' Bride seems more like the magic really is a part of the world around them. I think there's an important part of that where it's not trying to make it where, oh, this is why you go out everyday life and a normal life and you just never see it. It's just sort of there, but it's told from the perspective of the magical world side, I guess. And so, it's more like their world is normal, natural. So when there's stuff revealed, that revelation isn't just, oh, we're dangling this in front of the main character to make them gawk in awe again. There's some sort of relevant interaction that the character is going to have with it. I don't know if you get what I'm getting at, but in that regard, Ancient Magus' Bride is a very pleasing thing to continue watching. It's got other elements going into it that also sound like good provocational ideas, I guess. So it's not like an awe and wonder kind of anime, but I don't know how much direction they necessarily have, because it's really hard to tell where this anime wants to go, but at the same time, when watching it, you feel like it has a good direction. So all in all, I think that kind of balances out to a very watchable show. And I guess if you're wondering how that sort of stuff compares to Girls' Last Tour, like I said, I'm not even quite sure what direction this show is trying to go in, and there's interesting things about the environment, but it's hard to tell what relevant interactions are necessarily going on per se. Well, that one's they're very different anime. It's just that I probably touched on some ideas that overlap where it sounds like it's really good in Ancient Magus' Bride, and maybe I skipped over it with Girls' Last Tour. I don't know. Anyways, I'm on the second disc, and I haven't watched the prequel trilogy OVA thing. A part of me wondered if I would, but I decided not to, mostly because Funimation hadn't dubbed it, and even though I think it aired earlier, I had already started the main series, so I decided to just continue with where I'm going. Worst case, I'll find out that I would have wanted to watch the prequel ahead of time, but I kind of get the impression maybe it's not strictly needed. Hopefully, whenever I get a chance to watch it, I will be able to tell y'all one way or the other. Alright, so let's see. Other stuff. I did fire up Super Smash Bros. Ultimate ever so briefly to give Piranha Plant a try. I was being very careful with that because of the rumors of Piranha Plant corrupting if used in certain single-player situations. I'm not sure if that's actually true. And even though I saw it all over the place, I haven't seen any follow-up, and some of the original sources kind of disappeared, which makes me wonder if it was just an unsubstantiated rumor, or if I need to search again and find out. I don't know. Worst case, I lost all my Monster Hunter data, and Well, that would suck. Because I also thought somebody said something about another save being corrupted. Maybe there was just a coincidence of timing going on there. I certainly hope not. But, you know, I didn't feel like I really needed to play too many games, and otherwise, I think no. I definitely have something else to talk about. Ooh, a couple other things to talk about. So I watched like 6 episodes of Volume 6 of Dragon Ball Super. And so it ended a story arc that it had started, but I would say that story arc was mostly, it was okay. There were a lot of neat things about it. It's just where it was going in the end was a little dragged down, you know, kind of reminiscent of some of the stuff about Dragon Ball Z that was entertaining, but at the same time exhausting about it, I guess, for lack of better words. You know, I don't want to give away too many details. And then, I'd almost call it a kind of anticlimactic sort of ending, maybe, to that arc. Maybe. But for the most part, you know, it's there, it ended, and I can't help but, you know, I'm curious about more of it, because then it had a couple of episodes that were all about being silly, with a throwback to Dr. Slump, and also, interestingly enough, referencing the idea that, or referencing the point that the original Dragon Ball also had a crossover with Dr. Slump. So it had a good amount of meta going on, and then there was a fun little baseball episode, which also had some fun meta going on, especially because, if you might recall, Yamcha is professional baseball, and it's one of the few things he's good at, since the series decided a long time ago that he was not going to cut it as a fighter. You know, no human can, not after Krillin. But, you know, fun stuff. Also, with my Thursday friend, we started watching Superman the Animated Series, and what can I say? It's actually some really damn good Superman. I wasn't surprised that would be the case, because animated Superman is kind of the go-to for what's wrong with a lot of the live action stuff. And part of what's wrong with the live action stuff is a combination of some of the Christopher Reeve Superman, and also some of the follow-up to that, where Hollywood went its own direction and they completely lost their way. They don't understand Superman, which is unfortunate, because I guess the DC Extended Universe, you know, has DC's label on it, and so you got a movie Superman there, but it's a Superman that just doesn't get it. It's sort of like, this was a point that Bill from Kill Bill made in Kill Bill 2, where he claimed that Clark Kent is Superman's disguise, and so that says a lot about how Superman sees humanity. But that's completely wrong, because, and maybe this problem comes from the movies, which don't demonstrate this enough, but it's the other way around. Superman grew up on Earth. He's Clark Kent. And the problem is, they can't get Clark Kent right, and they can't get Superman right, because they keep forgetting that Clark Kent / Superman is country boy. Grew up in Kansas. I don't know. The point is, they keep trying to present him as this kind of godlike figure, and then they try to tear that down or something, when they keep forgetting Superman is a country boy, and he's an all-American country boy, and he wears the Superman suit in order to use his Kryptonian powers to do good. So he doesn't like wear them by day and then say, okay, at night I'm going to change into Clark Kent and fight crime. Or, you know, the other way around. Instead, Clark Kent is who he normally is. He's hiding his powers, but at the same time he has good reason to hide his powers beyond just, you know, revealing that he's Superman. And that's You know, his powers are dangerous. So instead, he just kind of came up with an alter ego to use his powers, just like pretty much every other superhero. The difference is, you know, his powers are innate. Anyways, a lot of the point is the introduction of Superman is pretty good. As a villain, the first villain he has to fight is actually Lex Luthor based. So in a way, a very common first Superman villain. But it's definitely set up to be more of a series, and the important thing about it is it works out a lot better than a lot of Superman origin stories that I've seen in movies. I especially think of Man of Steel, and I can't help but think, why couldn't you people have just watched this series and said, okay, this needs to be an inspiration for what we do? I think part of the problem is it isn't very Superman focused initially, because it's like, oh, well, here's Krypton, and it does a very important job of establishing Brainiac fairly early on, because Brainiac is an important part of why Kryptonians didn't realize something was bad until it was too late, and the person who was the least late was able to save his only son, send him to Earth. You know, it makes the things make a lot more sense. There's a little bit of isolationism that seems to be playing into things that just makes it make sense. And at the same time, it makes sure that Brainiac is established as a notable thing. Now, they would have to do something different for the movies, because the TV series very strongly emphasizes a Brainiac confrontation with Superman's dad, I guess. And a part of that is so that the animated series has Brainiac as a known villain who stepped forward after that. But in the short term, he's a antagonist initially, but he's not necessarily a supervillain so much as he's a self-serving artificial intelligent databank, I guess. Whereas, you know, Superman grows up and his real first conflict is something involving Lex Luthor, which isn't directly Lex Luthor, but it basically establishes Lex Luthor as Superman's person he has to be up against, and at the same time it kind of establishes that it kind of establishes why Lex Luthor is going to be able to continue to be a problem, because Superman with all of his powers isn't, you know, if he chooses to kill Lex Luthor, which is something that is explored in the Justice League animated series, of course, then, you know, that basically breaks his own moral principles. So he's trying not to do that, but the system is one that has Lex Luthor at the top. And it's interesting because I don't remember other systems setting that up. Like, they made it where he was just a really wealthy businessman in the old Christopher Reeves one, if I remember correctly. But it kind of made it feel like if Superman brought him into the police, something would be done about it. But it almost doesn't feel like that would be the case in Batman or Superman the Animated Series. And so after that, there comes a couple other episodes. Very interesting stuff going on. They definitely seem to be pushing the animation budget stronger than Batman the Animated Series did near the end of its run. But I think they have a lot of that just to play with. The way they discover Superman's weakness is kryptonite is actually really great. It's something that I think works mostly because I guess it's an episodic series. I mean, I can't help but think that if they had a Superman movie where they didn't have kryptonite at all and Lex Luthor was the bad guy, and the real problem was Superman just couldn't do anything to stop Lex Luthor because he was just too politically powerful, he just had too much money or something like that, he couldn't touch Lex Luthor without violating his own moral code, you know, that would actually be pretty good. And they'd have to, you know, make Superman a country boy, so, you know, oh, he has principles, all-American principles or whatever that means. But you know, they can establish things pretty solidly that way. But of course the movies haven't gone that way, and you know, they could have a follow-up movie where they discover kryptonite and his weakness. I don't know. The animated series has made me wonder what the movies could be. Now, as for why the animated series probably doesn't have as big of a impact as Batman the Animated Series, I'd say there's a couple of things going on there, but for the most part, it falls under the umbrella of styling of Batman the Animated Series. And within that umbrella, a very important thing is also the opening. So the opening of Superman the Animated Series, it's okay. It's got pretty great music, actually. A lot of great scenes, but it doesn't really feel like you're watching it and you're prepared to watch Superman the Animation. Whereas you watch the opening to Batman the Animated Series, and you pretty much say, oh, I just watched what was the most impressive opening of anything maybe ever, but probably mostly in the 90s, I guess, if you wanted to limit it to that, because there's a lot of really good openings out there. But, you know, you feel impacted by the Batman the Animated Series opening. You have a good feel for what it's presenting to you, and Batman the Animated Series also follows that up with very provocative seems to be the word I keep wanting to use, and I'm not even sure if I'm using it right, but it's not necessarily provocative in terms of like trying to pick a fight or sexually provocative or anything like that. It's provocative as in it provokes thoughts. It provokes consideration. You look at the title cards for a lot of Batman the Animated Series episodes and you're like, oh, interesting. And that's on top of the other things that it did really great. So, all in all, I think that's why I confused that stuff. Well, the important thing is, you know, I watched those 5 episodes and I have to say, I'll be glad to continue watching more of it. I can see why Batman the Animated Series would definitely be considered top dog, but compared to the other things in the franchise, Superman the Animated Series is phenomenal. And, you know, what I mean is, like, Batman the Animated Series compared to other Batman works, it stands on top or near top or something. I guess it depends on who you ask. But meanwhile, Superman the Animated Series is definitely top, but everything else is just so not getting Superman that it's hard to see how it compares to everything else because it just stands so much taller. Anyways, that also says something about why Batman tends to be a more favorite DC character, because he's easier to make interesting. Superman is pretty tricky, especially with yeah, I'm not gonna think about that too much more. Outside of that, I'm not sure what else I want to talk about. Is there anything coming up? Is there anything coming out? I guess there is one thing worth mentioning, and I'm actually gonna unlock my laptop just to make sure, because I did, thanks to the heads up of one of my subscribers, that would be Jose GT50, I made sure to pre-order a limited edition item from Limited Run Games that comes with an anime DVD that, as far as I know, is not otherwise available. Maybe I'll see differently when I look at it. I'm like, oh wait, I do have this, but I don't think so, because I think it's region free with English subtitles, which is usually what you'd expect from a limited edition release, which just happens to have something with it. And, you know, sometimes I like to think that, you know, it's hard having as many subscribers as I do. You know, I don't want to live up to people's expectations, but I also don't want to disappoint people. I don't know if I do or don't. You know, a lot of people like to say they love my channel, so we can just assume that for the most part, those of you that are subscribed to me that watch this like it. And I sometimes forget that there's these benefits in terms of people saying, oh hey Giga, you missed something. I mean, as a collector, I really appreciate that. Thanks a lot, y'all. I mean, even those of you who have not brought my attention to any of those things, you know, sometimes the fact that you're just an extra pair of eyes is really great. And I certainly hope y'all will enjoy seeing me open it, I guess. It's a PS4 game, so I'm not going to actually play it, maybe. But I definitely will get it. Anyways, that's the end of this week's update, I guess. Y'all, have a nice week.